Okay, hello and welcome everyone to the Fourth Environment Link's Lunchtime Learning sessions about climate and food adaptation within our communities. This session is supported by the Shared Prosperity Fund through the Falkirk Council and qualifies as a recognized event for our Community Growers Leadership Program. So just let us know if you'd like any more information about that. So my name is Chelsea and I'm on the food team at FEL. I have a couple of colleagues to introduce. Isabella's here with us and Morag as well. And today they'll be helping us monitor the chat. So if you have any questions, just pop it in there. Please don't forget to sign up for notifications on Eventbrite about our upcoming lunchtime learning sessions, as there's a lot more good sessions coming up. And it might also be helpful to join FEL's membership so that you can stay in the network and find out what's going on with other communities in the Forth Valley. We'll be recording this session, so please make sure that your microphone is off for now, and feel free to turn off your camera if you'd like as well. We'll have some time for questions at the end. So if I haven't forgotten anything, Isabella, Morag, forgot anything? No? Good. I'd like to introduce you to our speaker today, Jenny Macgillvray. She's a community activator with the Glasgow Community Food Network and was the initiator of the successful Full of Beans campaign. So I shall now turn you over to Jenny, and she'll tell you a bit more about herself, her work campaigning for beans, and why they're so important for climate adaptation. Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks, Chelsea. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. Slideshow from beginning. So yes, thank you for having me here. My name's Jenny and I work for the Glasgow Community Food Network. I'm also a director of Propagate and I live in the Stirlingshire area. And I work in community food education. I was in community gardening for quite a few years, and so I'm really interested in food growing. This talk, however, talks a lot about broader issues in the food system and how we can engage people in sustainable food systems. And so I'm going to talk for the first part about the food system and how beans can be a really important part of that. And then I'm going to talk about how my journey came to, how I came to be so enthusiastic about beans and how how the Glasgow Full of Beans campaign came about. And then at the end, a few tips if anyone else, for anyone that wants to run a similar campaign. The idea is it's very, anyone can do it in their community. So we'll share advice and tips at the end. So yeah, a poll to begin with. If anybody is here can click on the link in the chat or scan the QR code. There's just a bit of a poll just to find out in the last week, how many times have you eaten peas, beans, or pulses? So, okay, looking at, we've got 80% 3 to 4 times a week, 20% 1 to 2 times a week, and nobody has said no, never or none. So that's pretty good. And we'll come back to that later to see if that is a good amount according to health advice. So this is a diagram of the food system. It looks pretty scary and complex, but it shows just how challenging it can be to understand or navigate the food system. When we're talking about a global food system that's very complex with long food chains, long supply chains, and just very, very complicated. And yet we're all part of it. We all eat food. And so it is important that we can understand or to take ownership of our own part of the food system in our communities. And that's called food sovereignty. Um, it's also shows, so yeah, it also shows that this is different parts of the food system are connected, even though it can feel very disconnected. So someone in the city who's buying packaged food in plastic can feel very removed from how that food's grown, or farming methods, or issues that are facing farmers. So what we want to do is connect up those different people, different players, different people in the food system, and make it more relevant to people. And food is a connector of all of us. So and at Glasgow Community Food Network, we do bring together our different people in the food system. So community groups, members of the public, small scale growers, social enterprises, everyone, different people working together for a better food system. And I've found that beans are a really good way of bringing big topics and discussions about the food system to people. So, for instance, agroecology, which is just way of farming in harmony with nature. It can talking about beans can also lead to discussions on climate change. So how we use land and water. We can talk about food security and how we can feed more of our own, more people with UK grown food. Seed saving. So beans are one of the most easy to save seeds. They're very big and easy to handle. So we can do seed saving activities. There's a huge diversity of beans and within the legume family, and that can be a parallel to cultural diversities or diversity in society. And there's also the topic of soil health. So beans are really important for soil health, and we can talk about that later. They're a big part of crop rotations in many industrial farms in the UK. They're very important for nutrition. And so the other day I was doing a workshop, and it was attended by a specialist in diabetes because they were very interested in beans as a solution for that. And obviously eating less meat, because beans are a good protein source. And for people who want to eat less meat, beans are very important. So I just wanted to bring it into climate change. The food system as a whole is a very big contributor to climate change. It's responsible for 30% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And within the whole food system emissions, the biggest part is from farming and land use. Yes, so in the next slide, it's showing how bean growing can compare to beef farming, because they can produce similar amounts of protein for people. It's a good one to compare. So beef farming is one of the most has the biggest carbon footprint of any type of farming, and that's because of the cows emitting methane. which are very damaging greenhouse gas. So this is saying that a daily serving of beef for a year produces the same amount of greenhouse gases as driving a car 7,196 miles. Whereas with beans, the similar servings would be equivalent to driving 93 miles. So we can produce a similar amount of protein and food for people, but on much less land and with much fewer climate emissions. This is just about what I mentioned about soil health. So beans can help healthy soils, and they can also be a fertilizer for other plants. And this is because they have in their roots little nodules that fix nitrogen from the air into these little nodules, and then this interacts with bacteria in the soil, which makes that nitrogen available, bioavailable to other plants. So this means that bean crops as a whole don't need as much fertilizer, even in a commercial or mainstream farming setup. And also in a crop rotation, they can add nitrogen to the soil ready for the next crop. So after beans, if you harvest the bean at the soil level and leave the roots in the ground, the next crop can be wheat or brassicas or heavy feeder that can then make use of the nitrogen. So in the next few slides, I'll just talk about how I came to be enthusiastic about beans, and this was all because of some training I did with Slow Food Europe. It was online training, and it was all about the protein transition, which I'd never heard before as a concept, but all it means is how we sort of learn and move, how we learn to eat less meat and sort of move away from a meat-heavy diet. So, and it was a great, the training was with other food activists across Europe, so it was really good for meeting people as well. So the reasons for a protein transition or a more plant-based diet, there's quite a few reasons. And just, I mean, I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan, but I can really see the benefits of this. So there's health benefits from lower saturated fat and cholesterol that you would get from meat. So, and also eating more fiber from vegetables and legumes, and a reduced risk of chronic disease, supports healthy weight management, and the environmental impact, which I've mentioned before as well. Reducing meat consumption results in lower greenhouse gas emissions, reduced land and water use, and less pollution and deforestation. And then ethical considerations. So obviously yeah, the way animals are treated in a lot of farming is not ideal. And social justice and equity. So if we have a more sustainable diet in the West, then that can reduce the pressure on the planetary systems and land, and allow more food available globally for people. All of this is not to demonize beef or anything like that, but it's just to show that we can think differently about how food is produced. At the moment we look out the window, mostly see cows and sheep. If we were focused on food security, that may look like more mixed farming with more vegetables and crops being grown as well. And if we're using less land, then perhaps more for wildlife, more space for wildlife as well. It's just something to think about. So, as part of the training, I had a really good opportunity to go to a slow beans event in Italy in 2023. And this trip was so inspiring and was the genesis of the Full of Beans campaign. So the first thing we did, we visited a school canteen that was supplying several different schools, and they were producing 10,000 meals a week. And the chefs were very serious about food, and that's what impressed me. They had 85% organic sourced food. They were also working with local farmers, and because they're such a big customer, they can influence the producers and even the farming methods. And so they could demand or request organic, and also kind of the production of rarer bean varieties was important to them as well. So they were preserving heritage bean varieties in Tuscany. There was a producers market, and we got to meet loads of different bean growers from across Europe. This lady was from Latvia. She was amazing. She was growing all these different beans and doing a lot of education about them as well. And the people were producing chickpeas and lupin seeds and all different types of legume. And we got to taste a lot of them as well, which was great. So we also had a chance to go to several workshops and hear about how we could encourage people to eat more beans. And we had a chance to sort of think about how we would apply this when we got back home, and how we could transfer the knowledge to our home cities and day jobs. So this led me to start thinking about how we could recreate some of this bean enthusiasm back in Glasgow. I felt it was important to highlight the affordability and accessibility of beans, especially to reach people who maybe have less access to a range of foods or have limited cooking choices. And secondly, I felt it was important to highlight the diversity of beans and to have a sort of fun approach that would appeal across a wide range of people and really make it accessible to anyone to be part of. So I talked to colleagues at the Glasgow Food Policy Partnership, and they immediately got excited as well and said, "Yeah, we can do this." We didn't have any extra funding. We were just planned to do it within our day jobs and within our existing remits. But this meant that rather than running a lot of things ourselves, we wanted to put things out there that would spark something in other people and provide tools and resources that other people could use. I knew that there would be a lot of challenges to overcome in Glasgow compared to Italy, perhaps, for increasing bean consumption. So there's a perception that they're a bit boring, perhaps, or bland, or just for vegetarians. Even in Italy, there was a perception of them as a poor man's food. But this could be overcome by just providing inspiring recipes and getting chefs involved. There's a limited culture of growing beans and eating beans in this country. Maybe not as many bean varieties that are specific to different regions. There's a perception that they're time consuming to cook, and perhaps not enough UK grown beans that are available. And of course, tinned baked beans as well, which are a not so healthy way of eating beans, but they're the main way that we eat beans in the UK. And then I came across the Planetary Health Plate, which was produced by the Eat Lancet Commission on Food, Planet and Health. And they wanted to answer the question of how do we feed a future population of 10 billion people a healthy diet within planetary limits? So this, unlike Eat Well plates or other health guidelines, this diet focuses also on environmental sustainability. So if everyone ate a diet more like this, focused on whole grains and plant-based proteins, nuts and vegetables and fruit, then it would be more sustainable. So within the guidelines here suggest that we should be eating 50 grams dried weight of legumes every day. Whereas in the UK, on average, we eat 30 grams per week. So there's a huge opportunity here to increase the amount of beans we eat. So I had seen that by focusing on one food, that is beans, we can bring together different parts of the food system. So I wanted to include a campaign that included citizens and businesses and the third sector and food growers and market gardeners. And as most of the challenges that I could see were around perception and awareness, then I felt a campaign that focused on knowledge and changing the culture of beans would have the most impact. So we discussed and we decided on some aims for the campaign. So they would be share information on the health and environmental benefits of eating beans, demonstrating how to cook and grow beans, encouraging chefs to include more beans on their menus, creating opportunities for everyone to get involved, and involving growers across the city to grow and save seeds. So next few slides, I'm talking about more different parts of the campaign and what we did. So first, we produced some information and resources. We produced a website with toolkits on it. So everything we produced, we wanted to be open source and available for free for anyone to use and to inspire people. So the website is still there. It contains all the resources that we developed. We also ran social media campaigns. So there was a hashtag Glasgow Full of Beans where people could share posts. We produced a podcast quite early on from a webinar that we did and printed out lots of recipes and handbooks. We invited someone from the Beans is How campaign, which is a global campaign on beans, to talk to us as well. So we ran cooking demonstrations and workshops, including one at Glasgow Clyde College and one just for chefs, so they could learn how to include more beans on their menu. And then this was for school dinner ladies. I was very keen to include school catering because I'd seen it work in Italy. So this was a day we got stuck in. We made about 12 different dishes, all including beans, and then we ate them. So it was a great fun day, and everyone enjoyed it. There was really good attendance. And then they took those dishes out to the pupils, and the pupils chose their favorite, and that dish then became part of the school menu from then on. And this was part of the Soil Association. The Glasgow City Council catering department have a bronze award from the Food for Life. And because of this beans campaign, they also won a Scottish School Food Awards for the Full of Beans campaign, so they were very pleased. We engaged local businesses, food restaurants and sandwich bars. So 8 businesses joined in the Beans on the Menu challenge to feature beans on their menu for a month. Sprig is a sandwich bar with lots of salad options, and they included a dill and honey butterbean dish on their menu for March. They were very pleased with the results, and they got 1,200. They served 1,200 portions in March. So I also wanted to include growers and market gardeners in the campaign, and we worked with the seed library to choose certain varieties of bean that we thought would do well in Glasgow. And I was also interested to see if we could grow more beans for drying in this country. We often eat them as fresh green beans, which is great, but I also wanted to see if, well, fresh green beans, they don't store as well. So if we grew them for seed, then they can store over winter and be added to stews and soups and things. So we chose some seeds from Seeds of Scotland, which is a company in the Highlands, and they grow beans specifically adapted to the Scottish climate. And one of the varieties we chose was King of the Early, which is a dwarf French bean. And there was Milky Fork, which is a runner bean with really nice purple seeds, so they look very, very pretty. So we distributed them to different market gardens and community gardens. We ran workshops where we built bean structures from willow and planted seeds around them and showed people how to look after them. Unfortunately, that year was a really bad summer, and a lot of the beans didn't do that well or got eaten by slugs. So maybe that is a lesson. But if I had more time, more resources, I'd be really interested. I think this trial would be really interesting to do again, and sort of dedicate more resources to it. This is a guide we produced for how to grow different types of beans and save the seed as well. Then finally this year, I've been working more on cultural workshops because beans are a staple in many different cultures, particularly Mexican, like Central American, South American, Asian cultures, Middle East, Africa. They're a staple in so many different countries. And a lot of these cultures are represented in Glasgow. So we met people, we encouraged them to share recipes, and we had cooking demonstrations. We also created zines. So people shared their stories, their memories, and their recipes for beans. So this has been what I've been focusing on this year. And it's been really fun, really enjoyable to taste the different ways of cooking beans. So my final part of the presentation, I'm just going to share what my tips would be for running a successful bean campaign. The first one, we sort of link to existing food policies. So Glasgow is one of the sustainable food places, and I think that helped just get the word out. And the Glasgow City Food Plan has been in place for quite a few years, and that brings together all different sectors. So that helped us reach that partnership that the food policy partnership have built over several years helped us reach different sectors and different people working in food in the city. The Good Food Nation bill is now in place, which means that more authorities have to produce their own good food plans. So this is another opportunity to tie into local food policies. We appeal to a wide audience by having very colourful and simple messaging. Talia has some great design skills. She came up with the logo. It's now features on t-shirts. We came up with fun and interesting activities like bean earrings or bean badges. Just Also we met a board game producer partway through, and she offered us one of her bean board games that she developed for free. So we took that into schools. We used that in schools. It was a fun way to engage people as well. We definitely could not do everything ourselves, and I wouldn't recommend trying to do it all yourself. We wanted it to be more of a movement that anyone could be part of. So, but yes, get into partnership, make partnerships, and talk to people in different organizations. We were surprised by how many people just got it straight away and became really enthusiastic about the campaign. Promote local supply chains. So think about how we can shorten supply chains, how we can use local beans, how we can show people to grow their own beans or link with market gardens and save seed. So the more you save seed as well, the more you can get specific varieties adapted for your community and adapted for your climate. The interesting thing as well is this company called Hodmedods, which is down in England. They have been developing UK varieties of different legumes, particularly fava beans, but also chickpeas and lentils and quinoa that you wouldn't think could be grown in the UK, but they've been developing that. And learn from other cultures. So as I mentioned, beans are a staple in so many different cultures. Find out who's living in your community, ask people for their ideas and their recipes, and celebrate the diversity of beans. Even tofu is is a bean product, which is I particularly love tofu. So now that Paul, now that you've heard what I have to say, how would you describe beans in one word? If you can follow the link or the QR code, and we'll see what people say. Okay, we've got Sustainable, fun, yummy. Anyone else got any words to add? Nutrients. Great. Well, hopefully not boring. Hopefully your um attitude towards beans has changed a little bit, or you've learned something new about beans today. Um, we've got sustainable, delicious, easy and diverse, and easy to use on food. Great. So thank you, everyone. I haven't even checked what time it is. I don't even know. But I think we've got time for any questions now. And these are some links or ways of getting in touch with me or the Community Food Network and the website that we made about beans.
Thank you, Jenny. That was just such an incredible presentation. I really learned so much. Um, I love the way you linked in the chefs and the restaurants and the dinner ladies. I just feel like it was
Mm,
so nice learning about your campaign. There's so much
mm,
there that it just feels so thorough. And
mm.
and the campaign's still working because I'm going to be eating beans tonight for sure. It's a good way. Does
Oh,
anybody have any
great.
questions?
That was great, Jenny. Thank you. That was really interesting. Whereabouts in Italy were you?
Caponori in
Ah,
Tuscany.
is it a specific for that area or is all of Italy
This is
quite um
specific region. Um, so there is the slow food are headquartered in Bra, which I think is in Tuscany as well. So they did have a lot of links to that area, I think.
nice.
And there was a producer there who was particularly
Nice.
involved in slow food.
I think
That's
that's such a fantastic movement. Another friend of mine
yeah.
went to the Italy and was a part of the slow food movement and just again came back with so much inspiration.
Mm.
So that's definitely good to know that the work
Yeah.
continues. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's and it's just connecting with Europe as well, which I like because there is such a food culture there, and then you realize, well, we there is a food culture here as well, and we just need to like
Mm.
uncover it. Yeah.
Yeah. I do know farmers that grow beans to go to the Middle East. So
Yes.
I know that we should be eating more beans, like a diversity.
Yes.
Um, and I know myself from cooking beans that there's so many flavors you can add to them. So I'm not surprised to hear you're having so much fun on the it's by trying new recipes.
Yeah. Well, we're producing another recipe book from these workshops this year, so it'll be launched on October the 8th. We're having another event in the Civic House in Glasgow. Um, so once that's available, look out for that and I can share it as well.
Yes, that would be great. Please share it. Share it with our network, on the
Mm,
FEL membership. That people get like notices about other members about what's going on. So that would be great.
mm. Okay, well, we can share the slides and some other links as well about. I've got some links more about specifically growing beans and growing beans for drying. If anyone is interested in that, and just message me if there's anything particularly you want to know about. So yeah,
Thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you.
no problem.